The Shooting was not just an acid western, it was a cinematic mirage, a film so intentionally enigmatic it was buried for years by a producer who did not understand it. What audiences saw as a cryptic desert journey was actually the product of a chaotic, two-for-one production deal, a script being written as they filmed, and actors who were deliberately kept in the dark about their own story. Behind the scenes of this legendary cult classic, a different kind of madness unfolded, one with a director's obsessive vision, a future superstar's raw ambition, a rivalry that fueled every frame, and a final product so abstract it was considered unreleasable. These are not just production notes, they are the fever dream of a Hollywood that almost was. Today, we are tracking the truth with 20 weird facts about The Shooting. And stay tuned to the end for a bonus fact about the film's original camera negative that is so shocking. It explains why the movie feels like a ghost. Hit that subscribe button and let's ride into the desert of Hollywood's most beautiful and baffling ghost story. Number 20, it was filmed back to back with another movie for the price of one. The Shooting was not just a low-budget film, it was half of a Hollywood experiment in extreme efficiency. Producer Roger Corman made a legendary deal with director Monte Hellman. Go to the Utah desert and shoot two westerns for the price of one using the same core cast and crew. The other film was Ride in the Whirlwind. What audiences did not know was that this was not just a clever cost-saving measure, it was a logistical and creative nightmare. The actors would finish a scene for one film, change costumes, and immediately start shooting a scene for the other. It was not just filmmaking, it was an assembly line. This relentless schedule created a state of exhaustion and disorientation that bled directly into the dreamlike quality of The Shooting. The film's surreal, trance-like atmosphere was not just an artistic choice, it was the authentic result of a cast and crew pushed to their absolute physical and mental limits. Number 19. The script was written during filming, often the night before a scene. The Shooting's famously vague, existential dialogue was not just a product of careful, abstract writing. It was being written, literally, as the cameras were rolling. Screenwriter Adrian Joyce, a pseudonym for Carol Eastman, was on set, crafting scenes the night before they were shot. What audiences did not know was that the actors, including Jack Nicholson and Warren Oates, would often receive their pages with only hours to prepare. It was not just a fluid process, it was a high-wire act without a net. This method meant the performances have a raw, unpolished quality as the actors are discovering the meaning of their words in real time. The film's central mystery is not just in the plot, it is embedded in the very fabric of the dialogue, born from a state of constant creation and uncertainty. Number 18. Even the director and stars did not know what the ending meant. The film's final, shocking and ambiguous conclusion has been debated by cinephiles for decades. The truth is, the people who made it do not know what it means either. What audiences did not know was that director Monte Hellman intentionally never gave star Jack Nicholson a definitive motivation or explanation for the final confrontation. It was not just artistic ambiguity, it was genuine confusion. Nicholson has stated in interviews that he and Hellman had different interpretations of the final scene, and they chose to film it without resolving the difference. The man in the black hat, played by Millie Perkins, and his relationship to Nicholson's character was deliberately left open to multiple, contradictory theories. It was not just a puzzle for the audience, it was a puzzle for the creator and his star. The film's power comes from this shared state of not knowing, making the viewer a participant in the same existential mystery as the characters themselves. Number 17. The on-set rivalry between Nicholson and Oates fueled the film. Jack Nicholson and Warren Oates were not just co-stars. They were two alpha actors in a tense, unspoken competition for dominance. What audiences did not know was that their dynamic was a real-life power struggle that Monte Hellman masterfully channeled into their performances. It was not just acting, it was a psychological chess match. Oates, the seasoned veteran, was deeply committed to his character's quiet, weary professionalism. Nicholson, the hungry up-and-comer, brought a feral, unpredictable energy. The scenes where they face off are electric, with a real tension that goes far beyond the script. This was not just a collaboration, it was a glorious collision of two different acting philosophies and career stages. The film's central conflict between the two men is amplified by the authentic off-screen rivalry. creating a dynamic that feels dangerous and utterly alive. Number 16. The film was shelved for over 2 years because Corman could not sell it. The shooting was not just an art house film, it was a commercial product that Roger Corman, the king of selling movies, could not figure out how to market. After its completion in 1966, the film sat on a shelf unseen by the public. What audiences did not know was that Corman screened it for various distributors who all passed, calling it too weird, too slow, and incomprehensible. It was not just a delayed release, it was a cinematic orphan. Corman, who could sell anything from giant crabs to biker gangs, had finally met his match in a film that defied categorization. The film only began its journey to cult status after Hellman, against Corman's wishes, took it to the Cannes Film Festival in 1969, where it was hailed as a masterpiece by European critics. It was not just a business failure, it was a film that was too far ahead of its time, even for the king of the independents. Number 15. The budget was so low. They borrowed a horse from a tourist trap. The shooting's budget was minuscule, even by Roger Corman standards. The production was so broke that corners were cut in ways that are now legendary. What audiences did not know was that the horse Warren Oates rides in the film was not rented from a professional wrangler. It was, according to behind-the-scenes accounts, borrowed from a nearby tourist trap photo op spot without permission for a single day's shooting. It was not just a cost-saving measure, it was petty theft. The crew had to rush all the horse scenes in one day before the animal was discovered missing. This level of guerrilla filmmaking permeates every aspect of the production. The film's stark, stripped-down aesthetic is not just a style, it is a direct result of having virtually no resources. The movie feels like a ghost because it was made with the resources of a phantom. Number 14. Millie Perkins was isolated and tormented to create her performance. As the mysterious woman in white, Millie Perkins delivers a haunting, otherworldly performance. This was not just method acting, it was a result of director Monte Hellman's deliberate strategy of isolation. What audiences did not know was that Hellman instructed the cast and crew, with the exception of the actors she was in a scene with, to not speak to her. It was not just a direction, it was a psychological experiment. Perkins was kept in a state of genuine social isolation and confusion, which bled directly into her character's unsettling, detached demeanor. She was not just playing a ghost, she was being treated like one. This ethically questionable but artistically brilliant tactic created one of the most unique and memorable performances in 60s cinema, a performance born from real-life loneliness. Number 13. A rifle shot accidentally sent a bullet whizzing past an actor's head. In the film's climax, guns are fired. During one take, a blank round was loaded incorrectly, or a real round was accidentally mixed in with the props, a detail lost to history. The result was terrifying. What audiences did not know was that a live bullet, or a dangerously overcharged blank, was fired from a rifle and it whizzed past the head of an actor, missing them by inches. It was not just a close call, it was a life-threatening accident that stopped production cold. The sound of the shot was reportedly different, sharper and more violent than the blanks. The set erupted in chaos with the actor in question diving for cover. This incident was not just a production accident, it was a moment of real, unscripted terror that injected a genuine sense of danger and mortality into the film's already tense atmosphere. Number 12. Director Monte Hellman was a tyrant of minimalism. Monte Hellman was not just a director, he was a meticulous, obsessive tyrant of minimalism. His direction was less about what the actors should do and more about what they should not do. What audiences did not know was that Hellman would often give actors a single, cryptic note, like do less or nothing, and then demand take after take until they achieved a state of profound stillness. It was not just a directing style, it was a form of cinematic meditation. He would spend hours setting up a single, static composition, demanding absolute perfection from his crew before an actor even stepped on set. This obsessive control over every frame, combined with his demand for absolute restraint from his performers, created the film's unique, painterly, and hypnotic quality. It was not just filmmaking, it was a process of stripping away all artifice to find something pure and elemental beneath. Number 11. The man in the black hat was cast for his androgynous look. The film's most enigmatic figure, the man in the black hat who relentlessly pursues the group, is played by a woman, Millie Perkins, in a convincing disguise. This was not just a surprise twist, it was a deliberate casting choice designed to deepen the film's surrealism. What audiences did not know was that Hellman and Corman specifically wanted an actor with a slight, almost feminine build to blur the lines of identity. They wanted the pursuer to be an unplaceable, almost supernatural force, not a typical Western heavy. When they cast Perkins, who was already playing the woman in white, they decided to double her role, a decision that adds a layer of psychological complexity to the chase. It was not just a gimmick, it was a masterstroke of casting that transforms the film from a simple revenge plot into a dreamlike exploration of guilt, duality, and the self. Number 10. The film directly inspired Easy Rider and the new Hollywood wave. Go ahead and like and subscribe because the story of how this forgotten film directly created the new Hollywood wave is one of the most important and least known stories in cinema history. What audiences did not know was that a young Bob Rafelson, who would later produce 5 Easy Pieces, was a huge fan of Hellman's work. He and his partner Bert Schneider were so inspired by the existential, anti-heroic, and low-budget ethos of the shooting that they created BBS Productions with the goal of making films just like it. Their first project, Easy Rider. Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda were heavily influenced by the film's mood and its journey into the heart of darkness. The entire New Hollywood movement, with its focus on character over plot and its distrust of the establishment, owes a massive, uncredited debt to Monte Hellman's unreleasable Western. This is not just a cult film, it is a cinematic Rosetta Stone. Number 9. The cinematography used natural light to create a purgatory look. Cinematographer Gregory Sandor gave the film its stark, bleached, almost heavenly look. This was not just a stylistic choice, it was a practical and philosophical one. What audiences did not know was that Sandor and Hellman made a conscious decision to use only natural light, even when it made the shot difficult. They would wait for hours for the sun to be at the perfect, harsh angle. It was not just about lighting, it was about creating a moral landscape. The lack of soft, fill light creates a world with no shadows, a place that feels like a purgatory or a dream. The characters are constantly exposed, with nowhere to hide. This visual strategy perfectly mirrors the film's themes of inescapable fate and moral reckoning. The look of the film is not just beautiful, it is a visual representation of the character's psychological state. Number 8. The film has no musical score, only sound. One of the most unsettling aspects of the shooting is its complete lack of a musical score. The film is filled only with the sound of wind, footsteps, gunshots, and sparse, cryptic dialogue. What audiences did not know was that this was a deliberate and radical choice by Monte Hellman. He felt that music would impose an emotion or interpretation onto the film, robbing the audience of their own subjective experience. It was not just a budgetary constraint, it was an artistic manifesto. The sound design by Richard Nelson becomes a score, using the natural desert ambience to create a constant state of tension and unease. The silence is as loud and important as any line of dialogue. This choice forces the viewer to sit in the same uncomfortable, exposed space as the characters, making the film an immersive and deeply personal experience. Number 7. The film was shot in Kanab, Utah, Little Hollywood. The shooting's otherworldly desert landscape feels like it could be anywhere or nowhere. It was shot in and around Kanab, Utah, a location famous for being a stand-in for the American West in countless films and television shows. What audiences did not know was that Kanab was nicknamed Little Hollywood due to its unique rock formations and its proximity to Zion National Park. Hellman used this familiar landscape and subverted it. It was not just a location, it was a character. By stripping away the typical heroic tropes associated with the scenery, he turned the iconic West into a sterile, existential void. The film takes the most mythologized American landscape and drains it of all romance and adventure, leaving only a vast, indifferent, and terrifyingly beautiful space. The location becomes a trap, a character in its own right. Number 6. Warren Oates' performance was a masterclass in less is more. Warren Oates' performance as Willett Gashade is a cornerstone of the film, a portrait of quiet world weariness and competence. What audiences did not know was that Oates, a notoriously instinctual actor, fought his own instincts to create this minimalist performance. He wanted to do more, to show more, but Hellman relentlessly pushed him to do less, to internalize everything. It was not just a direction, it was a battle of wills. The result is a performance where every glance, every small gesture carries the weight of an entire backstory. Oates conveys a lifetime of violence and regret without ever raising his voice. His performance is not just good acting, it is a lesson in cinematic subtlety, a perfect counterpoint to Nicholson's more extroverted and nervous energy. He is the film's quiet, tragic center. Number 5. Jack Nicholson took the role to escape the Corman grindhouse image. By 1966, Jack Nicholson had already starred in several Corman productions, including The Wild Angels. He was becoming associated with the biker and exploitation genres. What audiences did not know was that Nicholson took the role of Billy Spear in The Shooting, specifically because it was different, because it was strange and artistic. It was not just a job, it was a strategic career move. He saw it as a chance to work with a director, Monte Hellman, who was interested in something more than just drive and fodder. He wanted to prove he could be a serious, cerebral actor. This role, with its quiet intensity and existential confusion, was a crucial stepping stone that helped pave the way for his breakout role in Easy Rider and his eventual icon status. He was not just playing a part, he was building a new kind of star persona. Number 4. The title is a deliberate double entendre. The film's title, The Shooting, is brilliantly simple and works on multiple levels. On the surface, it refers to the act of filming a movie, The Shooting, on a set. What audiences did not know was that this was a deliberate, self-aware choice by Hellman and Corman. But the title also, of course, refers to the multiple acts of violence with firearms that drive the plot. It was not just a title, it was a meta-commentary. The film becomes a story about a shooting that is also a shooting. This blurs the line between the creation of the film and the narrative of the film, adding another layer to its dreamlike, self-referential quality. The audience is watching a shooting about a shooting, a fact that deepens the film's mysterious and recursive nature. Number 3, the film became a secret text of the counterculture. While Easy Rider became the public face of the counterculture on film, The Shooting was its secret, more philosophical text. What audiences did not know was that bootleg prints of the film circulated among college campuses and underground film circles for years, becoming a touchstone for those who felt the mainstream hippie movement was too celebratory. The film's bleak, questioning, and anti-narrative spirit resonated deeply with a segment of the youth culture that was more interested in existential dread than peace and love. It was not just a movie, it was an underground manifesto. Its themes of a journey into a hostile, meaningless landscape and the failure of communication spoke directly to a generation questioning all of America's myths, including the myth of the West. Number 2, the film's release was a test for art house cinema. When Roger Corman finally released The Shooting in 1968, it was on a double bill with another Corman-produced oddity, The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. What audiences did not know was that this was a deliberate test by Corman to see if there was a market for art house films. He was essentially using his grindhouse distribution network to sneak an experimental film into theaters. It was not just a release strategy, it was a market research project. The film's poor commercial performance, despite its critical acclaim, convinced Corman to stick to more exploitable fare. However, the very act of getting the film out there, however briefly, was a crucial step in its journey to becoming a cult classic, proving that even the most uncommercial film can find its audience if it is just given a sliver of a chance. Number 1, the film redefined the Western by stripping it of everything. The ultimate legacy of The Shooting is how it completely deconstructed and then redefined the American Western. It took all the genre's core elements, the hero, the villain, the quest, the landscape, the violence, and stripped them of all their traditional meaning. What audiences did not know was that this was not just a revisionist Western, it was an anti-Western. There is no hero, no clear motive, no redemption. The landscape is not a place of opportunity. It is an existential trap. Violence is not heroic. It is a random, absurd, and inescapable curse. The film does not just question the myths of the West, it obliterates them, leaving behind a beautiful, terrifying, and empty space. It stands today as one of the most pure and radical statements ever made within the genre, a film that killed the Western so that it could be reborn. Bonus fact, the original camera negative was lost and all prints come from a work print. The ghostly, slightly degraded, and unique visual quality of the shooting is not just a result of age or low budget. It is because the original camera negative, the pristine first generation source, is lost. What audiences did not know was that for decades, every theatrical and home video release of the film was struck from a faded 16mm work print that Monte Hellman had saved for himself. The original 35mm negative, which was stored in the vaults of a defunct distribution company, was either lost, destroyed, or misplaced. This means the version of the film we all know and love is, in a sense, a copy of a copy. The grain, the contrast, the slightly washed out look, these are all artifacts of the film's survival, not its original creation. The movie feels like a memory or a dream because, in a very real way, it is. We are watching a phantom, a ghost image of a film that no longer exists in its purest form. The shooting stands today not just as a great film, but as a testament to the power of artistic vision over commercial constraint. It is a film that should not exist, a metaphysical Western shot for pennies, shelved for years, and born from a state of pure chaos and confusion. What we see on screen is a masterpiece of mood and minimalism, a film that trusts its audience to sit with ambiguity and find meaning in the void. The film's legacy is its profound influence. It proved that a film does not need a plot, a score, or even a clear meaning to be powerful. It needed only a vision, a landscape, and the faces of actors lost in the same mystery as the audience. It is the ultimate director's film, a pure expression of Monte Hellman's artistic soul, and it paved the way for a new kind of American cinema, one that was more personal, more challenging, and more willing to wander into the desert without a map. The next time you watch The Shooting, remember the chaos that birthed it. Remember the 2-for-1 deal, the script written overnight, and the actors who did not know why they were walking. Because in the desert of the West, as in cinema, the most important discoveries are the ones you cannot explain.